Well, you saw Conservative MP Arpan Khanna speaking in that clip. He's the Member of Parliament for the Ontario riding of Oxford. Arpan Khanna joining us right now in studio. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
Listen, I'm going to begin with the local Unifor in Ingersoll, Ontario, because here you have your party calling for the Finance Minister to eliminate these withholding taxes on these severance payments. But the local union, which represents workers at Ingersoll, Ontario, in your riding, this is the quote he gave to CTV News. He says they've not asked for your party to do this, and goes on to say, quote, "This is political posturing at the expense of our members." How do you respond to that?
Look, I could tell you in the last week, I've received over a few hundred phone calls, emails, text messages from workers from that union who are asking for help, who said that when they opened up their pay stubs after receiving their payouts, more than half of that was heavily taxed and withheld. So they are raising extreme concerns, and for us, it's my job as their Member of Parliament to bring those concerns to the floor of the House. And I could tell you, they're struggling. Our members that are working on the ground are struggling to make ends meet. They're telling us that this withholding of the tax is going to jeopardize their kids' summer plans, that they're now thinking twice of what to do when it comes to paying for their mortgages and how to put food on the table. So I don't think this is political posturing at all. I think it's about standing up for workers' rights, like we have been doing since day one. I think it's very important for us to remind Canadians that we have to give our workers the respect they deserve. I think for the longest time, they've been ignored, and for our party, it's important to make sure that they have a strong voice, and that's what I'm doing. I'm doing my job. These constituents are my responsibility when it comes to national issues, and we're happy to work with the union as well. I think we need a Team Canada, a collaborative approach when it comes to some of these issues. So I call on the member from the union to work with us, to work with the government, be at the table, and get a solution for hardworking Canadians. Okay,
so what you're actually asking for here is that at the federal level, the withholding taxes are applied to anybody who receives a severance payment or a lump sum of money. A part of it is withheld, and then you file your income tax down the road to get that money back. At the end of the day, these workers will have to pay that taxes. Is it fair to say to them, okay, have all the money now, but we're still going to claw it back down the road? Is this not an easier process to withhold it up front and get them to have it returned in a tax return?
Yeah, look, for those that have those means, for sure, but I could tell you half of Canadians are living paycheck to paycheck, and every single dollar means something for them. The calls I receive from these workers, they like to have money now. Yes, they'll get their money back in next year's filing, but that could take 16 months to almost 2 years for that money to come back. When they have mortgage payments that are due now, they can't wait 16 months. When they have groceries to buy for their kids and to buy food for their family, they can't wait.
But they will have to pay that money eventually down the road. And it's easier to pay it off front than as opposed to, say, set aside some for down the road to pay to the government.
And that's the normal way that they should be, is that when you file your taxes, when you should pay your taxes. We do that for regular pay as well. So how come severances and payouts are being treated differently? So that's what we're calling for, a collaborative approach with the Minister of Finance to use the tools in his toolbox to provide that relief to our workers so they could actually afford life in this unaffordable world that the Liberals have created.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned auto workers, the GM auto workers in particular, with this call on the federal government. But it's not just auto workers that have been affected by the Trump tariffs. Lumber workers have been affected, steel workers have been affected. Why not make a similar call for them or for any worker that is laid off as a result of Trump's trade policy?
Look, I think this is one example, is the CAMI one. That's the example in front of us. We are open to looking at solutions and I guess support for other industries as well. Like you said, lumber, aluminum, other industries that are being affected, but this is the one that was relevant to my riding today, and so we're taking action on that right away, and we will work with the minister, we'll work with the Liberal government. They always talk about collaboration. We're willing to work with them to find what is best for our workers across all industries to make sure that they get to keep more of their hard-earned taxpayer dollars and they could survive in today's costly world.
Mm-hmm. Have you heard anything back from the finance minister ever since issuing this letter?
The letter was sent this morning, so we haven't heard anything back, but we did ask a question in question period. I could tell you it wasn't a real answer, typical question period tactics, but we'll keep asking these questions. The member from London did mention he's hearing these concerns himself, the Liberal member, and he wants to work with us. So I invite him and others to come to Oxford and sit down and meet with the unions and others to find that collaborative solution to make sure that workers have the tools they need.
Okay, so the letter today specifically was about the withholding taxes, but it also referenced other concerns that your party has with the government and how it's approaching in the auto industry. And one of the things that was raised was the EV rebate that was announced last week. You want to make sure that any EV manufactured in the United States does not get this, is not qualified for this rebate that the federal government is now issuing. But does that hurt parts manufacturers in Canada that, you know, because we know that parts go back and forth between the border, and if it's assembled in the United States, you're not going to apply the rebate there. Does that hurt manufacturers here in Canada anyway?
Look, I find it sadly ironic to see that this government is, you know, while our Canadian auto workers are losing their jobs while they're being taxed literally half their paycheck, they're going around handing out $2.3 billion of hard-earned taxpayer dollars for American-made EVs. You know, all while Trump continues to slap on tariffs on Canadian made vehicles. I find that problematic. I think that no Canadian dollar should be going to fund American-made EVs, and that's what we
even if they have Canadian parts.
Look, I think the supply chain is going to be there whether these EVs exist or not. I think our job is to support our local domestic production. You know, when we hear about job losses in Oshawa, in Brampton, in Cami, that's having a serious impact on our communities as well. The thousands of spin-off jobs in the London region are huge. We saw job numbers come out on Friday as well. The London region, where Oxford is very closely situated to, the highest manufacturing job losses came from that region. So I think we have to create the environment for success. I think this government has a lot of photo ops. They have all these fancy strategies, beautiful, summits, photo ops, but it's actually not doing what they say they're actually going to be doing. It's the going-to party that always says they're going to do this, they're going to do that, they're going to do this, but it never comes to that. And so Canadians are suffering because of that. And so that's why we called on for to make sure that as long as the tariffs are on Canadian-made vehicles by the U.S., not a single dollar of our tax dollars should go to support American-made EVs.
Are you worried about alienating or perhaps provoking U.S. trade negotiators, Donald Trump? Because we are now in the year where CUSMA is going to be reviewed.
Look, that's for the Prime Minister answer. When in last campaign, he went around prancing in the campaign saying he is the best negotiator to get this deal done. It's been almost a year now, and we haven't seen any progress made on this file. So for us, we have to come from a position of strength. We got to make sure our country has the tool, that unleashes our natural resources. We support our local supply chain. We make sure that we create an economic environment that attracts investment, not push out like we saw with the Liberals in the last year that $500 billion has been pushed out down south. We got to create that environment and then go to the U.S. and say, let's work together. We can't walk away from our largest trading partner. It's 84% of our trade happens with the U.S. Yes, we should diversify trade. I think that's a great idea. We should be doing that. It was a Conservative government that started that under the Harper government. But at the same time, in my riding, Tillsonburg, half its economic activity goes to the States. So we can't turn that tap off either. So let's work together. Let's get back to the table. Let's get a good deal for Canadians, and let's make sure that Team Canada approach prevails over everything else.
Arpan Khanna, thank you for this.
Thank you, Michael.